Shalom, this is Hakam Ben-Emmett with the Torah Watchman Show International. I have a very quick video here to present to you. You might be surprised. Does anyone know a gentleman, a person, by the name of Ahmed al-Sharaa? I believe his name. Anyway, he has quite a rap sheet, so just bear with me. I'm going to read this to you. And I had to print it out. It's unbelievable. Past crimes and affiliations, okay? As a militant leader, al-Sharaa's crimes were primarily committed during the time as he was a member of the al-Qaeda. And you got it right. He was a member of al-Qaeda. And his role leading to the extremist group of a terrorist organization, I have not heard of it before, is al-Nusra, Front, and later the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, known as HTS. Okay, at this time, U.S. State Department, the Pentagon, classified these entities as international terrorist organizations. Now, of course, we have a very bitter history of al-Qaeda. Going back to 9/11, al-Qaeda in Iraq, known as AQI, and involvement in terrorism. So he is involved in multiple terrorist affiliations there. So in the early 2000s, al-Sharaa joined the brutal al-Qaeda in Iraq, AQI, which was known for its attacks and suicide bombings against Iraqi civilians. This is during the time when I was deployed in active duty. Now, he was arrested by U.S. forces in 2006. Why? Well, he was planting explosives targeting American troops and was imprisoned for 5 years, including time at Camp Bucca. That's a small little area there in Iraq during that time. Now, crimes committed while leading the al-Nusra Front and HTS. Okay? Now, massacres and ethnic cleansing. You're hearing me right. Now, this person is responsible. This is his history. Now, under his leadership, the al-Nusra Front carried out massacres and sectarian killings against Syrian, Alawite, Shia, and Druze minorities. There was a big Arab civil war, Arab Spring, as they called it, in Syria during that time. About 500,000 people were just killed. Mostly civilians. In 2013, a group claimed responsibility for the storming and cleansing of Hatla. This is genocide, racial genocide, a cleansing of a particular sect of people. So, in which dozens of Shia civilians were killed. Now, as you know, for centuries, for 1,000 years, at least, that there's been a lot of animosity between Shia, Muslims, and Sunni. And this is what this is talking about. In 2015, al-Nusra fighters killed Druze villagers in the Quab massacre. As you know, Druze are pretty much neutral between Jews and Muslims. They are pro-Israel, at least the ones I know about, and you can find them in Lebanon and Syria, of course. But in Israel, they're actually, some of them are members of the IDF, and some of them augment Israeli police forces. Okay, so in 2016, al-Nusra fighters massacred dozens of civilians in the Alawite village of Zaras. Now, all these places are between Iraq and Syria. Suicide bombings. His group was linked to the series of deadly suicide bombings in Syria and Lebanon that killed and wounded hundreds of people. This included bombings at Damascus in 2012, and this is getting fairly recent now, 2013, as well as bombings in Tripoli and Beirut in 2015. This guy's been very busy, right? And human rights abuses. Here's a few. Human rights organizations have documented atrocities and abuses attributed to HTS, including unlawful detentions, torture, arbitrary arrest, and extrajudicial executions. Now, who is this individual? Now, I'm going to post a picture of him later in this video. Terrorism designation and bounty. Yes. The U.S. designated al-Nusra, that terrorist organization, in 2017 and placed a $10 million bounty, $10 million bounty on this person's head. His name is al-Sharaa's head for his role as the senior leader of this terrorist organization. Now, let's get to 2025. This individual is the president of Syria. This individual, our president, Donald J. Trump, the individual I voted for, okay, the last 3 times I voted for him, he decided to forget all the terrorist rap sheet of this guy, like wipe it clean, like it never happened, forgot the bounty and everything else, the terrorist designation, everything else, and normalize U.S. foreign policy relations with Syria's president. Okay? And has invited him today and gave pretty much a red carpet VIP treatment, pretty much like the United States did before, stupidly, with Yasser Arafat, and also the Libyan dictator too, Gaddafi. So, and also, supposedly we're building a base in Syria too, along, there's a Russian naval base there as well. I hope we can get along. But, I've never seen this before, especially for a Republican. I've seen it with other personalities like Slick Willie Clinton and Obama and Biden and others like this, where you have a kind of a gray area when it comes to terrorism and you normalize it. Pretty much Obama wanted to give the terrorists, the Ba'ath Party in Iraq and others, and even al-Qaeda, a job. He said what they need is a job, they're maybe not as bad, they just resistance fighters and all this, but you're normalizing terrorism. And I don't have to take you back to the 20-point plan in the Middle East ceasefire, peace treaty. The great President Trump said, in greatest peace that Middle East has had in 3,000 years. That's a lot of bragging with that. But, of course, Qatar refuses to get rid of this international recognized, acknowledged terrorist organization, Hamas, or they are millionaires there who's making money off the poor saps crying in Gaza. All the money that they raise internationally, UNESCO and other organizations, goes to them to fill their coffers, and they get rich with the sheiks and the emirs there in the UAE. So I don't even recognize our foreign policy anymore since President Reagan said, I will not negotiate with a terrorist organization. But here we are. And Obama was criticized by Trump years ago about the Taliban 5. I was at Gitmo when that happened, and all the other things, that we've done. When the Democrat elected president and Republican and back and forth, the President George Walker Bush and the war on terror and everything else. Al-Qaeda was our enemy. Taliban was the enemy. And now we spent 20 years in Afghanistan, and now we gave all of that real estate back to the terrorists that we went there to destroy. And I heard that they are worse than they were with the al-Qaeda training camps there reestablished in Afghanistan since we left, since before 9/11. It just gets worse and worse and worse in my mind. And I have not seen this before. So again, the Presidente of Syria, his name is Ahmed al-Sharaa. He got VIP red carpet treatment and a big handshake from Donald Trump. making peace with your enemies. I guess that's what the Christians and the Gentiles want to do in the world. And they, in conclusion, the Abraham Accords, folks, this is just a get rich scheme for the U.S. and the Arabs on the backs of the poor Jew. That's pretty much what it is. The heck with their sovereignty, right? They're the 51st state of the United States anyway. Bibi doesn't know what he's doing. He has to ask permission to how far he can jump, from whatever president has him in office. Anyway, this is How Come Yara Ben-Emmett again with the Torah Watchman Show International, signing out. Shalom Aleichem, and God bless you.